Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Kris. This is part 2. The slow, quiet death of Kong Hong? No, Hong Kong. So, thumbs up, subscribe, yada, yada, yada. Let's do it.
Democracy is dead in Hong Kong. The pro-democracy camp, which just years ago was able to win the popular vote, now has absolutely no viable path towards any position of power. China has remade the city in its own image, a political system that claims to represent the will of the people, but in actuality hands near complete control over to the central government. Beyond and because of the changing political system, there's now also a widespread trend of Hong Kong becoming more integrated, literally, functionally, and culturally, with the mainland. In 2018, a $20 billion bridge opened connecting the peninsula to both Macau, another autonomous territory, and the mainland on the other side of the estuary. This was considered by many a symbolic project more than anything. After all, there was already a reliable and popular network of fast ferries connecting Hong Kong to Macau, and road traffic between both territories and the mainland is quite limited. The territories drive on the opposite side of the road as the mainland, and even then, driving a vehicle across the border requires a separate driving license, a permit, separate insurance, and approval by the neighboring Chinese region, so very few even attempt it. But a far more practical connection opened with the West Kowloon railway station in 2018. This connected Hong Kong to the Chinese high-speed rail network, meaning one can now travel non-stop well over 1,000 miles across the country to Beijing or Shanghai in about 8 hours. This was also controversial. After all, to make it non-stop, without a long wait at the border, mainland Chinese immigration would have to happen at the station itself. This meant that mainland officials would operate within Hong Kong, and, most problematically to supporters of Hong Kong's autonomy, mainland law would be enforced after the immigration checkpoint, meaning there is now this small area in Hong Kong within West Kowloon Station and on the tracks out from it, where many believe basic law, stipulating the autonomy of Hong Kong's legal system, has been violated. After all, there have now been instances where individuals have been arrested and prosecuted under mainland law while physically in Hong Kong, but after clearing mainland immigration in West Kowloon Station. Beyond the increasing physical connection with the mainland, there's simultaneously a mounting intangible alignment with China. This is not necessarily wrong. After all, the vast majority of Hong Kongers are ethnically Chinese, but it is often controversial, and many see it as coming at the expense of maintaining Hong Kong's unique singular identity. For example, the newly opened $500 million Hong Kong Palace Museum displays artifacts from the Beijing Palace Museum and focuses on educating the public about the history of Imperial China. But they've been very careful to phrase it as a partner, not a branch of the Beijing Museum, even if in function it could be either. Critics suggest that its development could have been forced through by Beijing as a form of cultural propaganda, as Chief Executive Carrie Lam approved its construction without any consultation from the Legislative Council or public, and critics say this is a violation of the rules of the cultural district in which it's built. COVID was another example of alignment with China. Pragmatically, Hong Kong had no choice but to align its prevention measures with Beijing's severe and scientifically controversial zero-COVID policies. After all, not doing so would act as public doubt in Xi Jinping's decision-making, which is not a realistic option for Hong Kong's ruling pro-Beijing leadership. But especially in the later years of the pandemic, this served as a stark display of just how Chinese this supposedly westernized city had become. Throughout 2022, the territory maintained strict policies like 21-day quarantines for arriving passengers, legally enforced isolation for the sick, vaccine passports for access to public places, and more. Meanwhile, most of the Western world got back to normal in early 2022 as the Omicron-fueled surge subsided. Ultimately, Hong Kong's strictness, born out of Beijing's influence, seemed to get it the worst of both worlds. The city had an extremely high COVID death rate, higher than most Western countries, and far higher than most of the Asian continent. And perhaps most notably, Singapore, perhaps Hong Kong's closest equivalent, did not see the same. 2,024 people died of COVID in Singapore, or about 1 in 2,800 people. In Hong Kong, though, 13,516 died. That's 1 in 550. But Singapore's COVID policy was far less strict. It opened its borders to the world about a year before Hong Kong, and was devoid of almost all visible restrictions by late 2022, while Hong Kong was still in the midst of its strict zero-COVID policies. This had an impact because the cities are direct competitors. They both portray themselves as global business capitals, the perfect hub of East and West, with high English proficiency, strong local talent, and easy access to financial services and other important institutions. And they are each successful at this. Singapore is home to the Asian headquarters of Apple, Google, Johnson & Johnson, Chevron, Barclay, Microsoft, Boeing, and plenty more, while Hong Kong acts as the headquarters of JP Morgan, Prudential, Estee Lauder, and more. But the composition of these lists reflects the changing nature of multinational enterprise in Asia. Singapore is winning. It is consistently being chosen as the best city for Western companies to base their Asia operations out of. This is reflected by the fact that Hong Kong barely has any tech presence, as the new wave of businesses has consistently chosen the city-state to the south. And they're not only losing out on new business, they're also just simply losing business. FedEx and the Wall Street Journal were two of the highest profile headquarters moves from Hong Kong to Singapore, while others have selected elsewhere. The New York Times, for example, moved its Asia headquarters to Seoul, while LVMH, the luxury goods conglomerate including Louis Vuitton, Sephora, Tiffany, and dozens more brands, opted to move up to Shanghai. In fact, the number of American businesses with regional headquarters in Hong Kong is now declining, and at 214, it's at its lowest count since the year 2000, and a similar trend is seen for British and Australian firms as well. Since 2018, Hong Kong's economy has been effectively flat.
Are they trying to get out before that 50-year turnover? Or is it sounds like China's building up its own cities to try to overshadow Hong Kong? Maybe to try to lure them back in, like, look, you're not number one anymore, so just kind of come back into the fold. But at the same time, they're not number one because of the policies. And it's hard you can't erase that from the minds of the people who lived through the peak and then the decline.
It's only grown a marginal 5.8% in 5 whole years. Over the same span, Singapore's has exploded a full 33.2%. Since 2021, Hong Kong's historically red-hot property market has been on a steady decline, and tourism figures have been terrible, at numbers not seen since the early 2010s. Hong Kong is just not what it once was. Its quagmire seems centered around the fact that it's losing what made it unique. The destinations of the businesses leaving the city reflect this. Shanghai is certainly the city best suited to international companies in mainland China, so it makes sense the companies that want to further focus on the Chinese market, like LVMH, would move there. Singapore, meanwhile, has effectively stepped in to be what Hong Kong once was. It is tremendously cosmopolitan, at times it's hard to categorize it into any one continent, and yet it still has high exposure and proximity to China. Also a former British colony, Singapore also runs on a Western legal system, also has high English language proficiency, and also runs as a democracy, although also an imperfect one. But perhaps most importantly, Singapore is, of course, its own country. It is not subject to the same game of tug-of-war between the world and China as Hong Kong. It is therefore perceived by many as a more stable environment. Hong Kong is changing fast, and when a company is deciding where to invest hundreds of millions of dollars to build a headquarters, fast change is not attractive. In 2021, the US Departments of State, Treasury, Commerce, and Homeland Security jointly issued an advisory warning US companies about the growing risks in operating in Hong Kong. The document notes the risks to foreign nationals and businesses placed by the new national security law, that data security is no longer a guarantee, and that there could be challenges with access to information given growing constraints on the freedom of the press in the territory. And beyond the direct implications of these threats, multinational companies rely on the ability to convince key talent to move to their offices in Asia, and there's a significant number of Westerners who are wary of moving to a place that is increasingly influenced by Beijing. So, to the decision makers, it's now hard to see what Hong Kong uniquely offers. There's the option of Shanghai if a business wants a cosmopolitan city with direct access to mainland China, and then there's Singapore if they just need proximity and familiarity. The city is just consistently losing, and the trend line is the scariest bit. It's tough to know what Beijing's endgame is. Hong Kong is a useful tool for the central government, as it's difficult for Western companies to operate in China's unique economic and legal system, so the city almost acts as a connecting node between China's socialist economy and the Western capitalist one. This almost certainly increases the flow of capital into the country, while simultaneously allowing the Chinese Communist Party to maintain their brand of socialism. Perhaps it's just instinct. Xi Jinping and the other autocratic leaders in China just don't know how to deal with dissent. This has been demonstrated by the Tiananmen Square massacre, by the lack of free press, by the censorship of media. The instinct is to just prevent dissent from happening in public, rather than confronting its cause. But in a democratic system, dissent is inherent. In a democratic Hong Kong, therefore, there will always be an anti-China camp. So perhaps, in the long term, one country, two systems was never going to work. But it's also possible that in the future, the world will look back on Hong Kong as an example of Chinese short-sightedness, the destruction of a once great city out of fear of what democracy could do to Beijing.
Oh my goodness. He said it. 2 something 1 city. Wow, I can't. 2 something 1 city. Anyways, he just said it like 30 seconds ago. It works because he was saying protests are democratic or part of democracy. Yes. You can have both. You just have to rule them as you would rule the other. So if you don't allow protests or any of that stuff, you can still say it's very democratic. You just quash all ability to speak out and everything like that. Kris, that's not democratic. Yeah, I know. But they can claim it is and still treat it like the other. And so, yeah, no, it's democratic. Nothing about it has changed. You have every right to go out and voice your opinion. Just understand that voicing your opinion will probably get you curb stomped by the police. But, I mean, you could do it.
Rather than do a traditional ad read here at the end, I'm just gonna play the trailer for the new show me and my team made called The Getaway. Although, I'll say it now, there is a bit of a twist in this trailer, so it's worth watching at least halfway through.
Welcome to The Getaway, where these 6 creators are taking a road trip to transport a $10,000 prize across the Great American West. The problem? There's a snitch among them, sabotaging the group at every turn. But who is it? The gamer?
Am I 1,000% sure I am not the snitch? Absolutely.
The zoologist?
Is there nothing I could say to change your mind?
The therapist?
You guys trust each other, like actually trust each other.
The card counter?
I'm not throwing shade at you, but the way that I think it would be smart to do it.
The finance guy?
This snitch thing is very stressful. I go to bed at night and I worry.
The political scientist?
I have this suspicion that we did get the snitch. You really never know.
You ready to find out?
Sure.
Okay.
It's a tense moment.
Okay, here we go. What am I?
Nice. Oh, yeah.
So here's what's actually going. We really like shows that have, like a sabotage element, but there's already like so many that have a saboteur.
Exactly. Okay, all right.
And now I have this special role. I'm really carrying this entire series.
There's even a bunch that have a couple of saboteurs.
Boston, I don't believe in. Jersey, I don't believe. It's Boston. Boston was never the city.
But as far as we know, there's none that have everyone as the saboteur. And we thought that would be funny.
In some way, I'm like, are there 2 snitches here?
Oh my God!
There's no script for this, so,
That's a great, that's gonna make the trailer, dude.
Yeah.
Want to know who else it is? It's, everyone.
You mother.
Okay, that looks pretty interesting. I don't have Nebula, but does anyone of you have Nebula? Is it worth getting? I'm asking. Okay. Well, we're going to end this here. I hope you enjoyed. Yeah, Hong Kong is just not in good shape anymore. It's too bad. But, yeah. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed. Until next time, have a good day, have a good night.